this town website.
Okay.
Good morning, Deborah Goodman.
Hi, Grant. How are you?
Good. How are you, neighbor?
I'm busy.
Same here, and it's like March. What's up with that?
I know, right?
I'm not very effective. I'm not getting everything done I need to.
Me
Well, you're not the
neither.
only one.
True, 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 true.
Okay, we got everybody here. I guess we'll get started. It's 8:02 a.m. and we'll open the meeting for the Lake City Historic Preservation Commission, 1st of March, Tuesday. Let's have a roll call.
Houston,
Here.
Lindsay, yes. Goodman,
Present.
Fox.
Present.
Okay. I'm glad you had to think about that one.
Yeah. Well, I guess first of all, thanks to the folks that agreed to sign up again on this. We all really appreciate it.
Yeah, this would be lonely for me without you people.
Yeah, you were the only one on the commission for a couple months there. Okay, first order of business is to deal with approval of minutes from the last two meetings that we had. One was a special meeting that we held on the 21st of September to deal with some COAs that had, I don't think we had a meeting earlier in September,
No.
but we had COAs coming in and we decided to have a special meeting to deal with them. The only people at that meeting were myself, Grant, and Denny Brannon. So we don't have the quorum of 3 that we're supposed to have for approving things here, but I checked this out with the town, and if we have the 2 members that were at the meeting make a motion to approve and second it and vote on it, then we're okay with it.
Would
Are
all
there
of us
any-
vote on it or
No,
just you two?
Only the people that were at the meeting.
Okay.
So first question, is there any issues, corrections or anything like that for the minutes for the September 21st meeting?
It looks good to me, Joe.
Okay, I think so too. Why don't you go ahead and make a motion to approve it and I'll,
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from our special meeting, which took place on September 21st, 2021.
okay, I will second that. So we have a motion and a second. Given that formality, are there any questions, comments associated with that motion? No, then we will put a voice vote on it. So Jody, you just asked myself and Grant about approval for that.
Houston,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
okay,
Okay.
motion passes.
Motion passes. We've approved the minutes for September 21st, 2021. And now a regular meeting on November 2nd, 2021. We have the minutes for those. And I think everybody was here.
Yeah,
Was everybody at that meeting?
yeah. Can you
So-
see I have the minutes on the screen?
Those are the September
That
minutes.
says September 21st.
I changed it, but it did not change. I thought if I changed it while it was up, it would change, but it didn't. That is November 2nd. Now,
Okay,
You should-
everybody
right?
on the
You can see
commission right
that?
now is there. Yeah, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Any corrections or comments associated with these minutes? I think they're fine. And if everyone is in agreement with that, then we need a motion in a second.
I move to approve the November 2nd, 2021 minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes for November 2nd, 2021. Given that formal motion and second, are there any comments at this point? If not, then let's have a voice vote or a roll call vote on approval of these minutes.
Houston,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes,
Fox,
Yes,
Lindsay, yes. I think I did that one backwards. Oh well. Okay, motion passes.
okay, great. The next item on the agenda is election of officers for the Historic Preservation Commission for 2022. The chair, vice chair, and secretary. And at this point, we need, unless there's discussion before that, we can use some motions and seconds for those. Anybody would like to make any statements?
Joe, you've done a fantastic job as chairman. I admire you.
I have to admit, I had some discussion with people about taking over the chairmanship. And I'll leave you to see where that went in terms of making motions and so on.
Deborah, you were saying something?
I would like to nominate Joe Fox for chairman.
I'll
2020.
second.
Wow.
That was too fast.
And nominations for chairman cease?
What did you
What?
say?
Are any further nominations cease for chairman?
Why do you want it, Houston?
No,
We could nominate you.
I think that's perfect what we've got.
The Joe Freeze? No, there you are.
No, why don't we go ahead and make further approvals and then we'll go through and vote. I'm not approvals, but motions. And then we'll go through and vote on.
I'd make a motion for Deborah Goodman to be vice chair.
Second,
I make a motion that Jody Lindsay be secretary.
Second.
Okay, we have motions and seconds for all three officer positions. Given that formal motions and seconds, is there any discussion on those motions at this point? No, then let's go through and have roll call votes on each of those
Can't we just
Officer
have a
Boogie.
roll call vote on the slate
Uh,
as presented?
That would probably be quicker, yeah.
So, Houston,
Yes.
Lindsay, yes, Goodman,
Yes,
Fox,
Yes. Okay, that's done. I had told
that
Steve
was a little
Twyman
quick.
that it'd probably take us a half hour to get all that stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
I'll send him a message now. Well, let me make sure that, let me look at the agenda here, make sure that I'm. Okay, well, if he comes on, we'll have him make a brief presentation before we take up his COA. Are there any additions to the agenda that anybody would like to bring up at this point? Okay, then I will, next order of business are the 3 COAs that we have to deal with. I'm gonna send a text to Steve Twyman telling him that we can take up his COA application.
Joe,
Yeah,
should we, I see that we have a discussion of the bylaws situation. Should we also discuss recent input on ordinance change and our, I don't know, our campaign for that?
I decided not to put it on the agenda, given discussions. I don't think so.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Okay, if he doesn't come on right away and he's waiting till 8:30, I suggest we take up one of the other ones. And might just go for COA 2022-3, the concrete slab at the town armory. To deal, let's open that one. Let's deal with that one. It shouldn't take very long. And when Steve comes on, we'll deal with his. This is a request by the town for agreement with the town trustees have already approved it. It's just a concrete slab at basically ground level. And Jody, do you have the evaluation that you can pull up easily? Otherwise I can do it.
Isn't it on the screen right there?
Oh yeah, I'm looking at the wrong screen. Okay. I will read, no, Jody, you go ahead, read the evaluation for this one.
This is the evaluation recommendation for COA 2022-03, the town armory, property on the southwest corner with concerning a placement of a concrete slab for various sports purposes, or sports court purpose. This COA is a request that has already been approved by the town trustees for construction of a 50-foot by 68-foot surface concrete slab to allow placement of a half basketball court and 3 pickleball courts /3 pickleball courts, not at the same time, at this location on town property. As this request does not incorporate construction of a building structure and does not include a fencing proposal, we recommend that the COA be approved as proposed.
Jody, where is this located in regard to like that ice skating rink on that's
Under the ice skating rink.
right there where the skating rink is?
Yes, yes, sir.
Ice will be put on it in the wintertime, so it is the ice skating rink also. And we asked Ben about, I mean, I kind of assumed that it would make sense to have fencing there. But Ben indicated that he didn't want to do that. I mean, then there's an issue with, from our perspective, blockage of views of the armory itself. But at this point, he doesn't want to have any fencing there. I can foresee some possible issues in something being towards the road to keep pickleballs from going out in the road. But at this point, they're simply requesting the concrete slab.
And Jody, you ascertained there wouldn't be any bodies that would be in the cement when it's poured?
I did not ascertain that. In fact, I have some stacked up in my shed for just a proposal.
Oh, that'll add to the bulk.
Yes. Okay, here is Steve Twyman.
Good morning.
Good
Morning.
morning.
Thanks for coming on. We're just finishing up one brief COA, so just bear with us for a couple minutes and then we'll get to yours.
Okay, going on mute and standing by. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, well, Grant, do we need to put that question to Ben Hake?
I don't think we need to, probably.
Okay. Okay, are there any questions, issues associated with this request by the town? No, then let's see if we can deal with a motion and second on COA 2022-03.
I'll make a motion to approve the COA 2022-03
As proposed.
as proposed.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of COA 2022-03 as proposed. Given that motion and a second, are there any comments at this point? No, then we'll put up for a roll call vote on this COA application.
Houston,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes,
Lindsay, yes. Motion passes.
okay. Then that one is complete. The next one we'll take up is COA 2022-02 at 130 Gunnison or North Gunnison Avenue. And Steve Twyman, is that how we pronounce it?
That's correct. Thank you.
Okay. Since you're here, can we ask you just to give a brief outline of what you're asking for here?
Yeah, so as you all know, trying to get a business permit and conditional use permit at that address to operate an OHV rental business. As a part of that plan and in an effort to try and fit in with the community in terms of its goals to the look and feel, I guess, would be the kind of the words that come to mind. And avoid having rental vehicles parked around in off hours and whatnot, and even during regular business hours that are just kind of with a strewn about look. We really want to try to avoid that. And so we wanted to put up a fence in the back area with a couple of gates to house our rental vehicles. And so in investigating that, it looks like the best approach for us to help soften the view as people walking by is to put up a 48-inch or 40-inch gate. I think I propose 48. I'm flexible. Personally, the higher the better, I think. But I'm not, but I want to balance that with the needs of the town, of course. And so it looks like 48 inches might be that sweet spot that fits within the code and would still allow the vehicles to be housed behind something so they're not so much directly visible.
Thank you. Are there any questions to Steve? The vehicle.
Wait,
Go
well,
ahead.
I'm sorry. So Steve, I just had one little question about this little fence in the front that is, and I understand the purpose of it, and that's probably a good idea. I just wonder, and this has absolutely nothing to do with our job here today. I'm just curious, since I have a chance to talk to you. It is that bit of fence in the highway right of way? Because the highway right of way is really big, and I'm just curious.
Okay, well, that's not the intention. So if I get out, I thought it needed to be set back like 10 feet or so.
Mhm.
That was what I tried to do with my top-down view. I'm not there in town at the moment. I don't plan to be in town until approximately May 1st. And so, that's when I would, presuming everything goes forward, I would start, construction on the fence. If it turns out that that fence needs to be shorter, or it just doesn't make sense at all, I guess I wouldn't put it in there. But based on the information that I had, it seemed to make a little sense to put that in there to help control
Yeah.
parking a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, that has nothing to do with what's happening here today. I just was curious
No, it
about
makes
that.
sense. I think it's a good question. We don't want to impose anything on the highway right away, and so maybe that's a condition of any acceptance that once constructed, it really is not imposing of the highway, and obviously we don't want it out to the end of the very edge of the street.
Mhm.
That blocks visibility,
Yeah.
and it goes against code and whatnot. So
Yeah, and I see that it is set back right there. And of course, that's just a rough estimate
yeah,
that you have
exactly.
here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I appreciate you speaking with me about that.
Sure.
Well-
Steve, are you aware of any survey pins that exist on this property that would tell you where your corners actually are?
No, so having put up a few fences, albeit in my backyard when actually I lived in Colorado. I lived in Colorado Springs for 12 years. I'd have to, I assume I would have to have the city come out and mark where the underground pipes are, from sewer to electricity, propane and whatnot. And the construction would have to avoid all of that, of course, especially if we're going to set down some 4x4s, cemented into the ground a couple feet deep to make that, the fence sturdy. So that would be a part of the process. And I assumed, although it's not addressed in the report, that any modifications to the exact plan due to where current pipes and underground infrastructure is, I assume I'd have to just come back and hold a conversation with this forum. to get a final go ahead.
I don't think you need, that's not what we deal with. And I think to Jody's point, I mean, some of what she brought up are things that we do need to discuss a little bit. You will need to have a discussion with the building inspector with regard to this fence. And I think there's an application to him that you have to go through for this also.
Mhm.
Okay.
But anyway, you need to talk to him about that. If you were to, I mean, there's another application that we're dealing with today that involves a request to place a fence within the town road right of way. And that requires different permits associated with the town and whatnot. I would suspect that number one, as you and Jody were discussing, you don't want this fence to go past the state right of way on the road. And you need to be clear where that is. The only point I would make is that when we've discussed, and I'm talking about the front fence right now, the front part of that fence with the previous building inspector that we dealt with made very clear that he wanted fences as low as possible out near that right of way, because this would be a good example. It's near the corner and he doesn't want any blockage of view for people making turns on that corner and things like that. But that's an issue you need to deal with the building inspector. I think we'll read the evaluation and proposed recommendation for this that Grant Houston and I put together. And if I'm remembering right, I think we put a request that the fence at the front there be the 40-inch height, and partly for that reason. But we'll see whether the whole group agrees with that request or not. But in the front of properties, we've tried to keep heights down to 40 inches. So there's plenty of view.
And I'm perfectly flexible with that.
Okay.
Whether it's 40 or 48 or 36, right? Any of those heights are really high enough to make it obvious to a customer that's parking to stay on the side of the fence, right? So that's the purpose, and whatever height best facilitates that and is what you guys want is clearly what we'll do.
Well, we'll see whether the group here agrees with the recommendation that was put together here. But let me just make a point with regard to the fence in the back. I mean, your original request was for 6 feet. And I explained to you, there's no problem with that on 3 sides there, but on the side facing the public road, 2nd Avenue, we've had a precedent for not allowing 6-foot fences closer than 30 feet to property lines and so on. And that just has to do with the whole idea in the historic district that the public is able to view both the historic buildings and the newer buildings that were approved within the guidelines for buildings to be built in the historic district that fit in with the look of the historic district, and not to block those views and so on.
Right.
It's conceivable that you could, I mean, I can't say what this group would do, but we could conceivably, if you were to ask for the 6-foot fence, I suspect that we might not approve it, and you could conceivably go to the town and ask for that. But the recommendation that we'll make here is based on what the design guidelines are for the historic district and so on.
Right.
And-
Right. I have no intention of going back to the town and trying to push for a 6-foot fence, for lack of a better term. I really just want to fit in and mute the look of vehicles, parked, sometimes I've seen some places and they look like they're just kind of strewn out there. And I'm just trying to avoid that at all costs.
Well, we appreciate that very much. will you be washing vehicles? Will you be repairing vehicles in the back there? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. I just submitted some plans to Andy Dozier about parking, washing of vehicles, and the use of spark arresters and exhaust silencers. And we'll see where the Planning and Zoning Commission goes. But in terms of washing the vehicles, Andy asked me to look at all the federal, state, and local regulations that might apply. Do I need a permit? How do I do it? And all this kind of stuff. The bottom line is, according to the EPA, I need to create a little gravel area and rinse down the vehicles on that gravel area so that there's no direct runoff into the natural runoff that's there on the one side of the property. And that does not require a permit based upon my analysis, but the Planning and Zoning Committee will look at that. And that included, it's a 13-page report. There's a lot of water related regulations out there at all those levels. And I tried to be as exhaustive as possible and take it very seriously. And I did. And anyway, and I went through each one of them. There was 15 total regulations between federal, state, and local. And I said, this one doesn't apply because of this, and this one doesn't apply because of that. In terms of parking, they didn't want any parking on, and I don't know if you want me to go into this, but I'll just a couple more minutes. I don't know.
We're curious.
Okay, all right. In terms of parking, they expressed they did not want any parking quote on the street, and all parking needed to be on the property premises itself, customer parking, in addition to the rental vehicle parking. So I did the top view that you can easily see there's about 7 parking stalls, 4 in the front and 3 on the side, based upon the top down view. And of course I was there. I've been there a couple of times. So I made a commitment to the Planning and Zoning Committee that I would not exceed the rental of 7 vehicles, because in general, they're 4-seat vehicles. A family comes in, they have 1 car of people that go into one of our vehicles. Or if they're renting 2 vehicles, they'll usually show up in 2 cars because they'll need 6-7 people, right? So there's a kind of a 1-to-1 correspondence between number of parking spots needed and number of rental vehicles that those cars occupants would want. So I made a commitment to that, and that if I ever got above 7 vehicles, then I would go back to the city planning and zoning, and we'd work on an acceptable plan. And so that was another commitment that was made. And then and so some of this is a little different. I don't know if any of you were in on the public hearing last week, but I mentioned 10 vehicles in the public hearing. Well, I've tamped that down to 7 based upon, talking with the town and addressing their concerns. And then lastly, I made a commitment to use spark arresters to, mitigate forest fire risk, and also install exhaust silencers on the vehicles. And those exhaust silencers, they fit at the end of the exhaust system on a vehicle. They reduce the sound noise by 10 to 12 decibels, which the way the scale works, it's nonlinear, but every 10 decibels of reduction is a perceived, it sounds half as loud, quote unquote. That's basically how that scale works. So it would really reduce the sound of the vehicles. And it also adds to the spark arrestor capability because it extends the length of the exhaust pipe. So all of that, I think, is goodness, and I'm trying to demonstrate to the town that I want to fit in, and I just want to, try to see if this business will work, but I want to do it in a way that helps preserve as much as possible the charm of Lake City. So.
Thanks a lot.
Yep.
Are there any further questions to Steve?
I have a question for those of you who evaluated the project. And that is, okay, thank you. I wanted to see that. So it is a suggestion that the front fencing be lowered to 40 inches, not a requirement or a condition, correct?
I think we can put it that way. I think the building inspector may well have something to say with regard to that height.
But for our
Um,
purposes, is
For
it a
our
suggestion
purposes,
or a condition?
that's up for discussion, but why don't, given that we're in this, Grant, can I ask you to read the recommendation?
Sure. Here's our evaluation recommendation for COA 2022-02 at 130 North Gunnison Avenue, former High Country Market, now an OHV rental business. This is in regard to new fencing. We have a revised request dated February 25th. This COA is a request to add new fencing to enclose most of the rear property for a parking maintenance area for OHVs and fencing in front to prevent parking on neighbors' property. The original proposal was for 6 feet tall fencing at the rear of the property, allowing for parking and cleaning area for OHVs. But on understanding our guidelines, the applicant has allowed for a lower fencing less than 30 feet from the property lines facing the public roadways. The applicant has now requested 48-inch high fencing for the entire enclosed rear portion. Low fencing is requested for a portion of the southwest corner of the property to prevent customer parking on the neighboring property. Fox and I reviewed this over the weekend, and we recommend that COA 2021-07 be approved as currently proposed, with the suggestion that the front fencing be the normally recommended 40-inch height at the front of the property.
Deborah, are you suggesting that we approve this on the condition that the
No.
front fencing be as normally done, the 40 inches?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I don't think that's consistent with our design guidelines or with the recommendations being made on other applications.
Well, we do generally try to keep the front of properties. Okay, you're right, because this is not a fence across the front of the property. It's along the side. So you're right about that. But along the front of properties, we try to keep it down to 40 inches. I think because this goes out to the state highway, the 40 inches right out there is probably something that the building inspector may want to talk about, but
Well, I'd like to point out that the front fence also includes, 20 or 30 feet along the side of the fence, not the side away from the most public aspect of the fence. Like we did on that fence for the Slumgullion Gift Gallery. We had to keep it low for, I thought, 30 feet, and then it could go up to 60 feet, which would make that spur, I'm just going to think of it as like a spur fence, that would, I think, be subject to the same guidelines as along the front fence. Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, but I need to point out that, I mean, that fence is, where that fence is way back past the 30 foot distance that we talk about, but it is clear that there
Is
are.
it?
Yes.
I mean, we don't know that. We don't know where the property line actually is.
I'm talking about at the Slumgullion Gift Gallery.
I see.
No, the fence that Steve is talking about is much closer to the property line.
Okay.
No, I mean, fences along the side of properties can be 6 feet, and they've been approved to be 6 feet down almost And I can't remember right now, but when they get close to public roads and so on, there are requirements that the building inspector, there've been a lot of different building inspectors and they've dealt with it differently, but they want the fence to lower its height as it gets towards the public roads, just so people can view around corners on roads and things like that. But you'll see throughout town that there are 6-foot fences along the side of properties that go closer to the 30 feet or 20 feet that you're talking about.
Okay, I just wanted
But
to,
that's not, I don't think that's an
discuss
issue
that.
right here. Yeah. Any other questions or comments on this? I mean, I would just point out to Steve that from our perspective, the 6 feet at all elevations or directions on the back of your property are okay for us, except for on the part facing Second Avenue. But if you want to request the lower height all the way around, that's no problem for us. As you've heard, we've tried to keep a 40-inch height at the front of properties, but given your needs here and so on, I think the 48 inches is personally, I think the 48 inches is fine for back at the back of the property there.
I'm perfectly good with it being a condition, if that's fits more in line with where this commission, would like to see fencing as it approaches the front of a property line. Again, I'm just trying to fit in, and it's no skin off my nose to make it 6 feet high or 2 feet high. So I'm happy to make it shorter and have that be a condition.
I'm just curious, were we right in this, that a main reason for the little fence in the front there is to keep people off the neighbor's property, or are there other?
Yeah, that's the sole reason, actually. It's not going to be housing any vehicles or anything like that. I just didn't want to encroach upon my neighbor in any way, and try to make it as obvious as possible to customers where they should park.
Okay, great. Any further questions?
Well, I think that it was an excellent application, Steve. Thank you for the time and effort that you put into that. Very clear.
Welcome.
The 48 inches, thank you for covering those things up as high as we can possibly get it. And I'm also comfortable with 48 inches in the front, but I'm not uncomfortable with a suggestion that it be put down to 40 inches, and leave that up to Gabe.
Okay.
yeah, I would go so far as to say that I am comfortable with the 48 inches on all 4 sides in the rear, but more comfortable with 40 inches for that little front corner fence. So we're going to have to work that out amongst ourselves on that.
Steve, thanks for your adaptability on this. You're easy to work with.
Well, I'm really trying to fit into the town. I lived in Colorado Springs from 92 to 2004, and I've been coming to the Lake City area and vacationing about every 2 or 3 years for the last 25 years. So I really love the town, and at that age now where my wife and I are thinking about semi-retirement and whatnot, and so we really want to make Lake City our home. And we really want, and I know it's a contentious issue, and it's an emotional issue, OHVs in general, right? So, but again, we just want to fit in and see if we could make a little lifestyle change for ourselves.
Okay, thank you very much. And I want to reiterate, we're all very appreciative of the way you've worked with the commission on this. I think we're ready if somebody wants to make a stab at a motion on this one. And the motion should be stating that we're dealing with the revised application that came in on the 25th of February.
Should one of you who actually did the evaluation make the motion, or?
Houston,
Ugh, Joe, I don't mind making it, but you might want to lead us through it.
Yeah, I'll just say again, as chair, it's not supposed to be my responsibility to be making motions and so on, but I mean, we have a recommendation for the COA here, and something along the lines of approve a motion to approve the revised request from February 25th, 2022 for COA 2022-02 for 48-inch fencing at the rear of the property, and a suggestion that the fencing requested at the front of the property be 40 inches. And then that last part, we'll see what the discussion is over that.
Okay, so our motion would be per a revised application dated February 25 from Steve Twyman, that we would propose a fenced enclosure at the rear of the property, 48 inches in height, and an extension on the front that we would recommend at 40 inches in height. Anything else we need to fill in?
Well, just he started out with a motion to approve COA 2022-02 per, as you said, per the revised request from February 25th. And we'll see what Jody writes down here and have her read that.
so are you saying that you're Houston, you are making a motion to approve 48 inches for the entire rear fence, or 3 sides of the rear fence? What do you
Well,
think?
Jody, the request in the revised application there is for 48 inches all the way around the back.
Okay,
So if he just says that
Okay.
to approve the revised COA 2022-02 for the 48-inch back fence, and then just make the recommendation that the front fencing be 40 inches, if that's what's agreed by everyone.
Jody, does that make sense?
yeah. Hmm. Okay. Give you something to tear
I would
apart
just say, I
here.
mean, Grant
Okay.
mentioned. Okay, go ahead and read it.
Why you wait till I'm done? Here, you can edit this. Motion to approve COA 2022-03 per revised request of February 25, 2022, allowing 48-inch fence in rear of property and suggestion that front fence on southwest corner be kept to 40 inches.
Sounds fine, except that you may have not read what you wrote there, but it's 2022-02. You just said 03.
Oh, no. 02.
Okay.
Does
That
that
sounds
motion,
okay.
is it clear in the language of that the entire fence is approved? Because it sounded to me like it just approves the back one and then makes a suggestion for the front one to be 40, and I think it should approve all of the fencing requested at 48 inches with the suggestion for the front one to be 40 inches.
Good.
I'm sorry, I'm just being.
No, that's why we
No, that's good.
have a brain trust. Allowing,
Don't get carried away with that.
allowing 48 inch fence. 48-inch fence as proposed.
Approve the,
Hold on.
approve the COA 2022- so-and-so as proposed in the 25 February revised description, or revised request. Some kind of wording like that.
Motion to approve COA 2022-02 per revised request of 22522, allowing 48-inch fence as proposed with suggestion that front fence on southwest corner be kept to 40 inches.
Second it.
Sounds good. Okay, we have a motion and a second.
H,
At this point, are there any questions or
Second.
comments about that motion? And okay, then I think we can have a roll call vote on it.
Houston,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Jody, yes. All
Okay,
in-
there's one other aspect here, Steve, and that is that the application form, the owner of the property needs to be the one to sign this thing. So we just need an email address for them. We'll make sure that you're in the loop on it, but the owners of properties need to be apprised of changes that are agreed for their properties in the town.
Fair enough. Can I get back to you on that? We've had to have several discussions with the owners to get to this point in terms of their objection to an OHV rental business.
I can understand, yeah.
Yeah, so we do have fencing in our lease as signed with them. That is approved. Discussions with them have been challenging at times. And so I'd like to probably approach them first. And I'm thinking off the cuff here. Like to probably approach them first before the Preservation Society or approaches them. If that's okay, maybe I can coordinate that communication with you offline in the next day or so.
That sounds fine. If you look at the first page of the application form that you filled out, there's a place on there where I will need to sign it and the owner will need to sign it. And in your communication with them, you can have your
The signature.
discussion over how that gets done.
Okay, all righty. Okay, I will get back to you in the next day or so on a recommended way to move forward to close that out.
Okay, thank you very much. And thanks for your participation in the meeting and so on. Yeah.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay,
Who owns it?
Patricia
Patty,
Crotwell
yeah.
and Peter Nesbitt.
yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize they hadn't sold it to Caroline and company.
No, they rented it, and and as you can understand, that's why they're having some interesting discussions with the owners about the whole thing.
Not bad.
Oh. Yeah, I bet. Okay.
Okay, I think Grant's gonna have to disappear for a little bit.
Okay,
Does he have to leave? I mean, he just has to abstain from a vote. I mean,
Yeah.
Steve's here for his
No,
discussion.
Well, we
No.
have to ask him questions as the applicant.
Yeah, Steve was here for his discussion, so I think he stays and abstains from the vote. That's what I think.
That's not my understanding.
Well,
That doesn't make sense.
I understand that under normal circumstances, that would be so, but we have to
We-
ask
we
him
can have-
questions.
We can have Grant make I mean, he has to kind of recuse himself from the committee right now, but we can have him make a public presentation about the proposal here, and we can ask him questions, but then when we take it up as an action item, he needs to be off the discussion. That's my
Well, off the-
understanding of the rules.
Should Steve have left for the vote?
Steve is not on the commission.
Oh, I don't understand why that makes a difference,
So I
Grant is a
think,
member of the Historic Preservation Commission.
but that
He's
doesn't
not
make sense
supposed
to
to
me.
be influencing our discussion when we evaluate it for approval or not. That's all.
so I think that what is being said is that we will have a public portion of this question and a private portion of this question, and that Grant can, like, we can ask him questions, but then he has to go away when we make, as we make a motion.
That's my understanding of how this works. Yeah.
So he can't sit there and make faces at us and threaten us with his 6-shooters.
He
I was
can't
thinking-
even do that. Yeah.
But Steve can.
I was
just-
sticking my
Because
tongue
he's
out.
not on the, Steve can because he's not on the Historic Preservation
It
Commission.
just doesn't make sense to me. But okay, whatever. Sorry, Grant, I'm fighting for your participation. I don't think you should be kicked
Well,
out
he
of the
can
room.
participate right now. We can ask him questions, right
No, we will,
now.
but Deborah, that's a good point, and I'll bring
Doesn't
this
make
up with,
sense. Yeah.
I will bring this up with the town in terms of protocol on these kinds of public meetings. But this is a public meeting, and I mean, Steve is allowed to, people are allowed to see our deliberation and so on these things. But as a member of the commission itself, there's very detailed rules about when you can be participating in making decisions and things like that.
I think, in my opinion, and from my experience of organizations and governments and nonprofits and all this, you would simply abstain from the vote. You're not kicked out of the room.
Recusal usually means a complete removal of the person. That's how it's always been interpreted as far as I have seen.
Same, yes, I agree with that. Deborah, I don't think that's correct.
Okay,
I don't in the least bit mind going, but I'm here if you want me to explain anything. I'm glad,
Well,
and then I can reconnect.
We're first gonna have, before we do any deliberation, we're gonna have a little presentation by you on what it is you want to do there, and at that point, we'll put questions to you.
Eh.
And if we need to come back later, we can get out of our deliberation and put a question to you, but
And I would like to just go ahead and say that Deborah, I didn't realize, I did not look at the evaluation that you wrote until I went to put it in the meeting materials, and I was unable to open that document. That's why I do not have that document here.
Okay, well,
I-
I had to ask Deborah to resend it and she did that. So
All right.
I've seen the recommendation, yeah.
So, and I assume that it's what we discussed, so I am fine with it too. What is,
Let me go and send it to you right now as the PDF. Sorry about that. It's the Mac doc.
yeah,
So let me just send it to you right now so you can put it up.
I gotta step away for just a second, get something off my stove.
Okay, so then I'll just ask the question again. I guess since I'm going to be working on that should be on its way to you. So I
Okay.
guess the difference is recusal versus abstaining.
yes,
Okay,
yes. I believe that that is what we're talking about. That's the parsing of that language.
so whether or not recusal is required or abstaining is required is the question that will clarify for the future.
Okay. Thank you for doing that. Okay. Yes, because that's the way I have seen it operate in the past, usually in town meetings. For example, the planning commission meeting the other day that Steve, that feller referenced. In fact, I was on that meeting, but Bruce had to recuse himself from the
He recused.
discussion.
Mhm.
So he left the meeting entirely, like turned it off. So I didn't get to listen in on that discussion
Right on. Okay.
because the town trustees may eventually have to vote on the recommendation made by the planning commission. So, so he had to recuse. And so did the other 2 or 3 trustees that were on that meeting. Lo and behold, they never show up to any meetings, but they were on that one. So anyway. Okay,
Okay, Grant, can we ask you to tell us what it is you want to do here?
Okay, and then I'm available for questions, and then I'm going to leave the meeting. And I'm sorry if this is awkward, you guys. I didn't get on here to make it awkward for anybody.
Oh, Grant, it's me.
Sure.
I'm the one who's making it awkward, not you. I apologize.
No, I don't want to put you in a bad situation.
it's not
okay.
awkward.
Let me just tell you, I bought this house in 1976. It's a contributing part of the historic district. It had a wood picket fence with square pickets when I bought it, but I was unable to preserve it. There was so much that had to be done, like a foundation, that fence disintegrated. Since that time, I've always been on the lookout for something that's fairly similar to what was there to begin with. Square pickets that are attached to rails with wood posts. I'm a great eBayer, and on eBay, I found a fence that was built in 1855.
Oh my God.
So it's actually older than the house that I have since purchased because it's almost identical to what was there. I'm sorry, Jody and Deborah stopped by, but I was unavailable, so they haven't seen this. I'm showing you a picture of the fence.
Closer.
Closer up here.
Yes. And
How's that?
Beautiful.
It's quite
Right on.
interesting. Those pickets
Wow.
are actually drilled through the railing. There's square holes that the pickets are driven through.
Wow.
If you can see on the bottom, if I'm going to try to make it lower, I think I could probably cut off something on the bottom here that would make it closer to the ground. The height is my concern, and I haven't even seen it. It won't be delivered until April. I'm afraid it could be in the vicinity of 48 inches tall currently, these pickets. The posts themselves that these are attached to are even higher, you guys. The posts are 54 inches. But these are real typical of Lake City homes. I've seen a lot of these. Look at the house, the brick one across from the Presbyterian Church. Big posts, tall posts that are attached to rails and pickets. There's precedence for this, but I sure understand if you guys don't approve. So I could lower it. If you get it too low, it's going to be next to the ground, and I'm not sure that's good for long-term maintenance.
Right.
From your experience, I mean, I didn't realize that, when did you take the fence down? What year was that about?
Well, I bought the house in 76. I moved the house off the property to put under a foundation under it in 77. So that fence would have disappeared by 1977. I tried to preserve it, but it disintegrated.
And is this new fence is pretty almost identical to what was?
Almost identical. I'm tickled that I could find something because it's not like a cutout picket. It's a square picket with a little point at the top.
Yeah, no, that's kind of amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And you guys are aware of the fact that Bluff Street is quite wide and that I'm trying to follow the front line of Murphy's next door to me. And the town has agreed to that.
Yeah, so this is on town right away property and you've gotten a agreement for the town to put it.
And they could ask me to remove it at any time. I'm not claiming any town property here, but it does align with Murphy's next door.
Yeah, okay.
I'll get off whenever you want me to, and you guys can discuss. And I sure understand if you want to delay until I get the fence or whatever you want to do. I totally understand.
Well, I mean, you've given us some, you've said from what you understand, it sounds like the top of those pickets may actually be 55 inches off the bottom of the fence, right?
Well, the posts themselves are 55, the top of the post.
Well, let's show that picture again.
Okay, here's this. I've got another picture. Can you see that?
That
Yeah.
doesn't include the posts.
Right, so here's the post. Look at that for an
Oh,
antique
beautiful.
post. So you see that the rails are mounted to that post. So I've got some leeway that I can mount it lower on that post.
I see. Okay. Okay. No, those posts are neat.
Aren't they pretty?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's beautiful. That
want me-
is in the true spirit of all of this, Grant. Thank you for your research and investment you're putting into this.
Well, I love this old stuff. It'll be a fair amount of maintenance to keep it painted.
Yeah,
But I sure understand any way you want to go on this. Tell me when you want me to exit, and you might call me, Jody, when I should reconnect.
Okay, that sounds good. Are there any further questions to Grant at this point before he does his recusal? Okay, it sounds like we're,
Okay, I'm going to exit, but call me and then I'll reconnect.
okay. Okay, what do you guys think of this really weird request?
I think it's beautiful.
I mean, I don't know anybody else in town that would ask for something like this.
It's beautiful. I really commend him for it.
My take on it is, when you read the design guidelines, there's no, I mean, this is something that we've dealt with over the years as the commission. There's no clear statements in the design guidelines with regard to fence heights in the historic district. And what we've based our recommendations on is what it says in the introduction part to the design guidelines, which describes historic fencing in the town as generally being about 40 inches high in the front of properties. And that's what we've used as a basis for making recommendations and so on. Clearly, there was a variety of fences early on in the town. And my take on this request with its request to essentially replace an old historic fence with something pretty much the same as what was there in the past, is that even though it's a little higher than that 40 inches, if it's replacing pretty much exactly an old historic fence, then that's perfectly acceptable. And that's how I would look at it. Other comments?
Well, that's obviously what we discussed as well in our recommendation. We referenced that. I'm happy to make a motion to approve COA 2022.
Well, let's read. Can you read your recommendation first, just so?
Hold on, hold on. That one.
Jody, are you reading it or am I?
You go ahead, please.
The application for this application is for the installation of a vintage wooden picket fence along the front of the building in the same configuration and alignment as the original fence as referenced in the architectural inventory. The property is contributing to the Lake City National Historic District. The request meets the district design guidelines and serves to restore the fence as it was historically. It is recommended that the application be approved.
Okay, and that last line is pretty much all you need to have in the motion.
That's all I want in the motion.
Go ahead.
Yes. So just FYI, I'm looking
Yeah.
at the design guidelines right now. And as you pointed out, there's no strong hard line at 40 inches. It just says many yards were enclosed in fences of short wooden picket, ornamental wrought iron, or metal wire. Most fences were low to the ground, parentheses, less than 40 inches tall, parentheses, and allowed views of the yard and house front. So it is my opinion that this fence, even though it exceeds 40 inches, still fits within the rest of those requirements. So that's it. I just want to make sure I got that on record that we are going by the design guidelines.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, Deborah, if you want to make a motion, I think we're probably ready.
Move to approve as proposed.
Well, you
COA
need to say,
2022-01.
okay, sounds good. We need a second.
And I'm seconding. Okay, the motion is to approve a COA 2022-01 as proposed.
Okay, given that we have a motion and a second, are there any comments on that motion? Then let's put the motion to a roll call vote.
Lindsay, yes. Goodman,
Yes,
Fox,
Yes.
all in
Okay,
favor.
COA 2022-01 is approved as proposed. We've dealt with the action items. You want to send
Recused. Yep, hold on. Okay. He's on his way back in. Okay.
All right, Grant,
I'm back again.
it sounds like you can have your fence.
Thanks, you guys. I appreciate it. I'm sorry if this was awkward.
It was
Not
not.
at all. No, I mean, we were complimenting, I mean, there's very few people in this town that would go to the effort that you've done to find a fence to replace the historic one that was there. So it's very much appreciated.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it.
Okay, we finished with the action items for this meeting. In terms of old or new business, would just have a brief discussion on we need to make some revisions to the bylaws for the Historic Preservation Commission, especially around how we deal with potential administrative approval of COAs that come in. My feeling is we really need a way to deal with this. We've had a problem in the past with members of the commission that haven't been completely on board with the idea that they're on the commission to uphold the historic preservation ordinance. And so the idea of having subcommittees of 2 to review COAs and recommend administrative approval on them has not worked. As long as we have people on the commission that agree that their job is to uphold the historic preservation ordinance, it can work. But Deborah and I have agreed to look at this closely and see if we can come up with something on this. And Deborah, do you want to say anything else about how we, what you would like to spend some time on this?
Well, I committed to Joe that I would be willing to put effort into this. It's got to be after ice climbing season and before summer season. So April, May timeframe. And the way that I've approached projects like this before is collecting other examples of bylaws and reviewing them line by line, because when you look at lots and lots of other ones, you see things that we don't have included, like how we vote. I just looked at them and there's, nothing about how we vote, like we just went through. So that would clarify that. Any issues that we have, we can address at the time. And then it certainly needs to be, everybody needs to climb through it line by line, but I'm more than willing, with Joe to do the legwork prior and then present when I've done bylaw revisions before. I say, well, here's a sample of something new and different. What do you think about that? And it'll take some time, but I think what we'll end up with at the end is a good product.
No, that sounds great. I mean, I can just tell you that when this commission was created in 2016, I'm the one that spent the most time on trying to come up with this. And as you say, used some bylaws from other places in the state and other places. And if you find other things that need to be clarified more, that's great.
I did also express to Joe that, I'm going to put some time into this and would like to have a little bit of a break from the COA approvals during that period of time, just to be reasonable.
That sounds
Okay.
reasonable. Yeah.
That sounds reasonable. We have fewer than normal number of members on this commission, and we all have other things to do. You may be asked to participate, and we'll try to assign relatively simple ones. But that is also the season when we get a lot of applications in. So you, Deborah, you and I will both spend time on this bylaws business, but I think we have to ask that you contribute a bit on the COAs too. And I can just say that right now we have two that seem to be coming up. One related to the initial indication is some chain link fencing around the fellowship hall, some part of the fellowship hall in the Baptist church, and a request for the EMTs to have a storage shed between the courthouse and the shop, in the county shop, which we should receive pretty soon. That's all I know that's in the works right now.
Well,
Okay,
I think Deborah has a good point about backing away a little bit from COA evaluations if possible. So I just would like to reiterate my support for that.
Thanks, Jody.
That's all.
Okay. Okay, any other, I mean, we've covered the agenda. And does anybody have any questions on the bylaws issue?
Joe, I've got something different when we get to that point.
Okay. What you got on your mind?
Wouldn't it be a good idea if all of us signed a card to Denny Brannon saying how much we enjoyed working with him on this board?
It's a great
I think
idea,
that'd be
Joe.
good. Yeah.
Why don't we each sign a card? I'd like him going off to realize how much we appreciated his participation.
Yeah, that might mean a lot to him. Do we have any nice note cards with the historic theme? Like note cards with the Presbyterian Church on them? I know I've seen.
Museum, you used to sell
I
them.
have one like that in the store I can get.
There you go.
Okay, let's do that and each sign it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good idea, Grant.
Good idea, Grant.
We're gonna miss Denny. He was really
Yeah.
good.
He cared
So
a
what
lot.
do you want? I'll get it. What do you want me to write on it?
We can all write our own little thing.
Yeah, we can each make a little note on there.
Okay, okay, sounds great.
Just let us know and we'll each pop over to the Slumgolian gift gallery.
And
Mhm.
and Joe, you have his address in Montrose, or I guess we'd send it maybe in Lake City.
We can send it to his PO box in Lake City. He'll get it. Yeah.
Good.
He just
Okay.
bought a house in Montrose and moved in this weekend.
Mm.
That's all I
Okay.
have.
I'm going to
Um,
close the,
Well, I
Wait.
have,
oh, go ahead.
I'm just wondering where we are with applicants for our remaining position.
We have not, as far as I understand, we haven't received any further applicant.
Is it appropriate to try to recruit people?
Yes?
May I make a suggestion that we focus on people who are retired? I'm serious. Really and truly, I mean it.
No. It just seems so obvious.
Yeah, I agree.
I did ask the soon-to-be ex-mayor, but he felt like that having both he and I on the commission would not work. So
I don't know very many people in town yourselves accepted, thank goodness. But if anybody can think of anybody who owns a beautiful historic property, who is retired and who lives here year round, I think we can start picketing their front yard, taking cookies.
Good
Well,
idea.
I can just tell you, I have made some approaches to people that own historic homes here and have not got well, the ones that I've approached have not followed up on my suggestions and so on.
And it doesn't have to be someone who owns a historic home, just somebody
Who cares about
with an
his?
interest.
Mhm.
Exactly, exactly,
So like Denny, he didn't own a historic home.
Right.
right.
So just because the four of us do.
And does it have to be someone in the town?
Yes, I think so. It's the town of Lake City board, so that would be in the bylaws.
I don't think it is.
They're pretty bare bones.
There's nothing about what constitutes the commission in my.
It's
I'm
not
just
in the
scrolling through
bylaws,
right
but
now.
Deborah, you need to review the ordinance. And there's some statements by the town trustees when they made the ordinance about what the commission is about.
Okay,
And that's why some of that stuff is not in the ordinance.
it's in the, okay,
I mean, not in the bylaws.
right. 10-4.
Okay,
Okay, let me see what time it is. 9:28 a.m. And we'll formally adjourn the Lake City Historic Preservation Commission for today. Thank you all for your participation.
Thanks, everybody.
thanks.
Yep.
Good meeting.